Tough loss for Notre Dame on the field Saturday night against Ohio State, but on the recruiting trail, good news for the Irish, landing two new commitments, one about an hour before the game, and I want to say one about a half hour after Notre Dame's 17-14 loss against Ohio State. So bringing in Kyle Kelly, blue and gold recruiting writer, to break down a couple of the new commitments for the Irish with me. And I think that's four commitments for Notre Dame in 6 days, Kyle. So we'll definitely see if there's more commitments down the pipe for Notre Dame. And we'll definitely be talking more Fighting Irish recruiting on our Blue and Gold YouTube channel, as well as our blueandgold.com website, Kyle, because there is definitely a lot more to talk about. We're just going to cover two items here. Daniel Anderson, 5'11", 190 pounds. He's a 3-star guy, but pretty interesting prospect, Kyle, in that, he visited Notre Dame for the Irish Invasion Camp. Only had an offer from Long Island. Notre Dame offers him, becomes offer number 2. Tennessee, Mississippi State, Colorado, a couple others ended up offering him after that. Sophomore season last year, 74 carries, 856 yards, 11 touchdowns. Also had 3 receiving touchdowns on 246 yards. So, Kyle, and just kind of watching this tape, what do you think about Daniel Anderson? Because Notre Dame's already got 2 running back commits in this 2025 class.
Yeah, I feel like what Notre Dame has tried to do with the last recruiting cycle in 2024, or I guess you could call it the current one, is with Aeneas Williams and Kedron Young. They got 2 different types of backs. Aeneas Williams is like your Kyron Williams, do it all type running back, and Kedron Young, he resembles a little bit more of Audric Esme, just a downhill runner, big bodied guy. And Notre Dame's taken a little bit of a different approach in the 2025 recruiting cycle. They got Justin Thurman, who's I think I compared him to Jadarian Price a little bit when I did like my 5 thoughts. Obviously, they're not identical players by any means, but just some of the traits there. Both those guys being a little bit smaller, toned up guys, quick feet, can kind of do it all around backs. Aeneas Williams is kind of like that as well, but he's more of a built up guy. Just built like Kyron Williams. And that's why I kind of, yeah, I mean, it pretty much is. And so, like, they got Justin Thurman out of Tampa Jesuit, and he's a quick little feisty guy. And I think that Daniel Anderson is just a really hard runner. He runs a little high on film, I noticed that, but he's a bigger guy. Specializes running in between the tackles. It looks like. I mean, he can kind of get outside the tackles as well. And he's an underrated receiver. I mean, I think this maybe like your Logan Diggs type of back if you want to compare him to Diggs. I think Daniel Anderson also wears number 22, so I think Diggs wore 22. But this is just one where you got to completely trust the evaluation of Dylan McCullough. Like, he has earned that right. Coming from the NFL, did an outstanding job, has obviously done a remarkable job evaluating running backs at Notre Dame so far with the addition of Jeremiah Love, Jabron Payne, and some of those guys. So, yeah, it's a interesting commitment, being that his offer sheet never really got to grow, but it seems like since that offer, and certainly once he came and visited in July, this was Notre Dame's recruitment to lose. So, not sure how many teams want to get involved and try to go up against the Irish.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of good points. So yeah, when he tweeted out like May 4th or something that he got invited to Notre Dame's camp, he had 0 offers at that point. So my guess is that when Notre Dame was recruiting TJ Lindsey from Bryant, Arkansas, that they saw this kid on film. We're like, hey, we need to take a look at him and get him up to camp. So Notre Dame, offering both Thurman and Anderson and taking the commitments, both, kind of fringe 4-star, guys right now. You might be wondering why take these guys so early? Why rush this? You got to understand, Notre Dame saw both of these guys at camp. So they've seen the in-person evaluation. They have a lot more film than we do as well. Like Anderson, we were just watching his sophomore tape. Notre Dame has scrimmage tape that's not posted publicly. We don't have access to his junior film right now, like Notre Dame obviously does. So they've got more information, and like you said, it goes back to McCullough. You got to trust his evaluations. He's done a great job at Notre Dame. Yeah, obviously he's got the NFL pedigree as well with the Kansas City Chiefs. So the kind of the out of the blue unexpected one, Kyle, CJ May from Highland Home, Alabama, 6'4", 225-pound, 4-star edge rusher. I wrote an article Thursday late afternoon, about commit watch. Like, here's some names to keep an eye on, whether they announce this weekend or, down the road. These are the guys I think you need to pay close attention to. CJ May did not make, I think it was 6 players. I don't think he would have made the top 10 or 15. Like, not expected. But I remember, Kyle, when I've talked about CJ May, when I did this interview with him back in June, which you can find at Blue on his on his On3 profile. This article I posted on June 13th. I remember, like, man, this kid is just a little different. And when you say that about a young man and talking to him, that usually bodes well for Notre Dame. And Notre Dame went ahead and pulled off this recruiting win. Kyle, I know you got to talk to him, so tell us kind of your impressions of that conversation, and then what you think about this young man's commitment.
Yeah, I think every Notre Dame fan's gonna the first thought that comes to their mind when they see a commitment out of the blue after the Ohio State game from a kid in the South with a lot of hard hitting SEC offers, they're just gonna wonder if he sticks. And I think that's a pretty reasonable question. And I asked CJ May just that. I'll have a more extensive report on blue and gold, and you can be sure to check that out for all our premium subscribers. But just basically, I think this, even though it does seem like an emotional decision, committing to Notre Dame has been on his mind ever since visiting in June. This was a Notre Dame Auburn battle. Auburn was always like the safety net school for him. That's where his cousin plays right now. His other cousin, Jacaleb Falk, is teammate at Highland Home, is verbally committed to Auburn. So, that's the in-state school, and I even asked them, like, what was Auburn's coaching staff's reaction when they found out you were committing to Notre Dame, and there was just a lot of surprise involved. But even though it does kind of seem like an emotional decision, I think I wouldn't classify that. I think it'd be more like a quick one. I think CJ May really thought this one through, and he wanted to follow Deuce Knight from Mississippi up to Notre Dame and play with them. And he wants, while Deuce Knight is going to be the offensive recruiter in the 25 class, I think CJ May wants to take over that role as a defensive guy. And just kind of looking at what he brings on the tape, I also asked him, what position he expects to play at Notre Dame. Could it be that Viper position that Jordan Botelho, Isaiah Foskey play and played? Or, will he end up going in on the interior of the defensive line? He didn't really say, that he wasn't. He said he basically wasn't sure, and that's kind of evident by the film here. If you can tell, there's been a lot of plays where he's been lined up wide, kind of as like an outside linebacker, and he's been hand in the dirt a couple plays. So, Al Washington, Notre Dame D-line coach, the rest of the coaching staff, just looking to see how his body fills out and plays, but. This is an outstanding football player. I mean, he had offers from about half the SEC. Georgia. I mean, I know Georgia offers everyone, but that's a big time offer. I think Tennessee, another school that offers everybody. But one school that does not offer anybody or everybody and is outstanding at evaluating defensive linemen is Clemson.
Yeah.
And CJ May has a Clemson offer, and right there, that kind of verifies him being legit. So. I do expect this one to stick. I think it'll be interesting to see how many times he gets back to Auburn with his cousins being there. But nonetheless, a big time pickup for Notre Dame.
Yeah, he looks outstanding. And this is sophomore film. I mean, I really like CJ May. To me, you'll continue to evaluate, kind of how he grows. But right now, I'd project him as a Viper and just kind of see where it goes from there. But yeah, he looks really good on film. That's CJ May, the number 232 overall player, number 19 edge per the 2025 On3 industry ranking. So as we record this, I'm currently looking at the clock, September 24th, 12:39 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll see if there's any other commitments by the time you're watching this. But Notre Dame is at 5 commitments in this 2025 class. Deuce Knight, quarterback, number 39 overall player, number 3 player at the position. You got CJ May, you got Justin Thurman, we've talked about. You got Davion Dixon, and Daniel Anderson. How about this? Look at the states these guys are committed from: Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Arkansas. Now, my brain is like, is this kind of just a coincidence that this is just kind of the guys who are popping, or is there really like this, you know, effort for Notre Dame in the South? I think it's probably a little bit of both, Kyle. I think it's Notre Dame flexing its national muscles along because, I mean, look at some of the guys who visited last night. Mark Zachary, Indy, right? Owen Strebig, Wisconsin. Talon Taylor, Chicagoland. Like, I don't think there's too much street into here other than like, yeah, Notre Dame is showing we will recruit anywhere.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that this morning. I was like, I was running through my head. I was like, okay, Notre Dame's got 5 commits: Florida, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Alabama. Oh wow, these are all from the South. And that's definitely a different trend. And this is something I want to dive a little bit deeper into on Blue and Gold, just to do some research to see how Notre Dame's classes have started in the past. And I think, kind of like you mentioned, I think maybe a little bit is coincidence. Like the first 2 commits in this class, Davian Dixon and Justin Thurman, both of those guys attended Catholic Jesuit universities and high schools in Florida.
Right.
Dixon transferred to a public school in Miami, Palmetto, but still, like those 2 guys are like Notre Dame kids. Those are guys
Yep.
Notre Dame identified early that kind of fit the mold of the university. And these other 2 guys, Deuce Knight, CJ May, and Daniel Anderson, all coming from public schools from the South. Guys have just fallen in love with Notre Dame and Notre Dame type kids, as you mentioned. And I don't think it was a strategy for Notre Dame to say, hey, we're going to go into the South and target those guys this recruiting cycle. But I still think that this is the 3rd cycle under Marcus Freeman. These are like Notre Dame is going to find different ways to try to improve or, fine tune or change things in each recruiting cycle. And don't mistake yourself if you don't think that the Irish did want to put a little bit of emphasis in going into SEC country and identifying Notre Dame type guys that they could bring onto campus, visit, and obviously get commitments. So, yeah, I think that I don't know how many more guys from the South are really going to jump into this class, but they got 5 of them now, and I think other recruits are going to look at that and say, hey, wow, these 5 guys are going up to Notre Dame, South Bend, Indiana. I mean, I think that guys are going to give Notre Dame a closer look.
You got to love that CJ May is talking about Deuce Knight. So a defensive end is talking about, oh, Deuce Knight committed. Like that's an impacting him. And I know Deuce Knight's going hard after some receiver prospects in the 2025 class. So this is really just the beginning. And you got to remember, from Georgia, you got Jerome Bettis, who I think is not a lock, but it's, he's probably going to end up at Notre Dame. So there's another South kid from the South. So I'm loving it. I'm here for it. And I know you folks are as well, looking at Notre Dame landing some of these big time prospects from the South. So please do hit the thumbs up on this video if you liked what you saw. Subscribe to our channel. Go to blueandgold.com for much more coverage of Notre Dame recruiting and Notre Dame's heartbreaking loss against Ohio State over at blueandgold.com. Appreciate you all for watching. And as always, we'll catch you next time.